All right, very quickly, I want to preface this video. So this video was recorded 2, maybe 3 months ago at this point. It's very, very weird to see how all the takes that I gave in this video, the majority of them, have aged like wine. Perspectives that I was giving was a mix of predictions with some slight analysis that I'm like picking up from the things that I'm seeing. It's just kind of like blown out of the water at this point. I'll get into like selective usage of religion and how Christianity, religion, and the administration are all clashing with conflicting ideals. Also with the Iran war. But I'm not stroking my ego, but at the same time, I kind of was right. It's been a while, but I want to quickly rant about some of the recent events starting the new year. We're only a few weeks into the new year, and there was already stuff going all around the American political climate, and it obviously has an impact worldwide, not only the direct impact that we have, but also the secondary impact such actions lead to, and the overall reaction from it as well. And there's always a conflation between left and right ideology into what that translates into from the American left and right ideology into how it's viewed internationally, in Latin America specifically. Trump takeover of Venezuela. The Trump administration has enacted upon its own interests once again, and obviously there's a lot of problems with this issue. Now, personally, do I think Nicolas Maduro has robbed the elections? Do I think he has led to a mass economic destabilization in Venezuela? Absolutely. I think he has remained in power into extreme authoritarian, almost dictatorship, where it doesn't seem like he'll be out of power anytime soon, where there has been mass suppression of foreign news, of any oppositional media outlets, of any oppositional candidates, self-proclaimed democratic elections. There is very much clear election fraud that goes on in the form of massively enhancing the outcome and the winner and inflating the numbers to favor him. Now, this is a take that I've struggled to see from many left commentators that I actually agree with almost on everything. They don't really seem to acknowledge that Nicolas Maduro has done that. They really get stuck up on the side of the propagandization of how favorable such actions were. They really get stuck on the propagandization of how favorable the overthrow of Maduro's government was, and how those in favor are just either have no idea what's coming to them, or they're representing a vocal minority as to who is discontent with Maduro. Which I can understand the political framing of it when you don't really want to give credit to the administration, given the illegality of what was done, and you also really can't give credit for anything. It doesn't matter what the reasons were, the illegality and also the loaded substance that comes along with an action like that. It really undermines any valid reasons that existed. But I also think this leaves room for completely downplaying just basically the essence of what Maduro's actions were. I think both of those things don't necessarily have to contradict each other. And I think right here, this framing, this political framing, left the room that was used to downplay the actions of Maduro in Venezuela, which that I don't necessarily agree with. I do agree that the United States' economic sanctions on Venezuela massively uprose such economic and social instability. However, it doesn't undertake Maduro's clear repression and linear impact on what appears to be modern-day Venezuela's issues. Now, to focus more on Trump, this is where I agree with the left take. The Trump administration's actions in Venezuela are not only against the law, it wasn't passed through Congress. Obviously, we're not in a war, but to take action in another country, that's an issue. That's an issue that needs to be addressed, and that's not something that you can just partake in off your own volition at 3 in the morning. Now, obviously, the Trump administration has been harassing Venezuela for a couple months now, so it seems like they were really just trying to paint a narrative to build up a justification as to why they did this. They were blowing up self-proclaimed narco-terrorist ships, boats, for months now. They gave Maduro a $50 million bounty. So when such actions take place, it's not necessarily that it wasn't surprising, but you could see the buildup coming towards it, where it's not completely out of nowhere, but it was very sudden. Now, the issue, along with, obviously the illegality aspect of the actions, is what does this mean for Venezuela? Now, obviously, Maduro was a very disfavored leader in Venezuela, but now the United States pursuing imperialistic ventures in Latin America has very much had negative impacts in the past. Off the top of my head, I can name you countless countries that have been negatively impacted by United States intervention. You have Nicaragua in the 80s with the Civil War fighting against communism, supposedly. Same thing in El Salvador in the 80s, which came in the matter of a civil war backed by the United States. And this is another point that I very much disagree with when it comes to these conservative talking figures. Somebody that I really disagreed with was Charlie Kirk. I made a video on him before. There was a clip of him really, I'm gonna see if I can find it here, show it to you guys.
I think Hondurans, Mexicans, Nicaraguans, El Salvadorians, Panamanians, Venezuelans, Chileans, they should all go home.
Oh, really?
If they're here illegally, yes.
But like I said before, these people have been devastated by in the past. These countries are poor.
I don't care. Go fix your own country. Don't come to our country.
Because we fucked that up in the first place.
Hold on a second. How did we screw up El Salvador?
But this clip of Charlie Kirk, he very much tried to downplay or completely nullify, not even downplay, completely nullify any U.S. responsibility for any immigrants that come into the country, whether through its illegal means or legal means, specifically through illegal means. But he really tries to nullify any U.S. responsibility on people from El Salvador, for example. The United States partaken in these foreign affairs, massively destabilizing, leading to a huge migration influx during the 80s. That's why there's a huge population of Salvadorians, specifically on the west coast of the United States. But this mass destabilization had a long-term, long-lasting impact on the economic and social climate in El Salvador. So when immigrants come here from impoverished and endangered conditions, and you have figures like this really trying to play this moral abstaining from any responsibility, it's very perplexing to see how you can almost disassociate yourself from their struggles when your country directly had an impact. And for you to come and claim that there is no responsibility whatsoever is very much willfully ignorant on his behalf. Now, I don't want to speak too much on the man because, of course, he's not here anymore to defend himself, but these are points that I stand by, and I always criticize him for that reason. Obviously, you have other countries around the world, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Libya, Honduras in 2009 with the coup that they enacted on, which vastly contributed to San Pedro Sula in Honduras being the murder capital of the world for several years in the 2010s. Again, such imperialistic ambitions, which is a term that can be used more accurately to describe the actions in Venezuela, because there is obvious ambitions economically there that they're pursuing, especially during the time period of the Cold War and fight against communism. The U.S. had very clear intentions as to what they were doing in these nations, and the destabilization that it contributed to long-term and short-term cannot be negated. When it comes to Venezuela, we have to always use, because there's just so much precedent of it, of the United States coming in for supposed good reasons. Now, that's what they present to their people, obviously. Now, with a much more interconnected global landscape of media and information, we see that reception from these Latin American countries as a form of distaste towards American influence. But there is this movement against leftists claiming that there is a Trump derangement syndrome in the form of whenever a good thing is done, such as this one, nothing can ever be appreciated, which, again, I do agree that Maduro was not a good person as leader of Venezuela. I'm speaking as if he's dead. He wasn't a good leader, and he contributed to a lot of the negative things going on in Venezuela, socially, economically, politically. Obviously, the mass migration from Venezuela, it's almost diaspora of Venezuelans around the world. At what point does it become a question of, is the grass really greener on the other side? The U.S. does not have a great track record of their various imperialistic ambitions. There's always very much ulterior motives that are either in our face that we just don't seem to accept, or that were secluded for decades when obviously media wasn't as widespread as it is now. Obviously, there's a lot of false information out there, but there is more to consume, and a lot of it is factual. And we'll really see if it is a measure of the grass is greener on the other side. Personally, I don't think so. I think there is very much imperialistic economic factors that are going to be exploited from the Venezuelan people. And will we see much of a change over there? And I'd like to see how it'll be in years from now. The Trump administration only has 3 years left. How much of a turnaround can Venezuela have in those 3 years from what Trump is claiming to do? And we'll see what the next government in power does, which most likely will be a Democratic one, the way things are going right now. We're going to probably see a huge sweep in the midterms, a huge blue wave in the midterms like we saw in the election a few months ago. Just to continue a bit on the Charlie Kirk thing, it's very weird to see such a cynical approach from such Christians, because it's not exclusive to Charlie Kirk. There's this very much cynical approach that you see from U.S. influence, and then obviously the migrant influx as a result from those countries and the destabilization. There's this huge pride in nationalism, and this nationalism along with Christianity. I heard this funnily enough, an atheist say this, but you can't be both at the same time. You can't be this crazy American nationalist and a devout Christian at the same time. You can't conflate them, because the moment you do, you're creating this own twisted version that is merely just a selective usage of whatever Christianity mold you're trying to create, you inevitably appeal to. That's why you see such a rejection from many figures. Even the Catholic Church massively rejects it, because it's a continuous subjective version of Christianity that's you're molding into. You want to have all the things that you like, but when actual logic from your own religion is used against you, you don't like it anymore, because it's not your religion. It's not the religion that you're actually trying to aspire to. It's one that you're creating and molding that you can appeal to with ease. Apparently, there's rumors that the United States is going to attack Iran. So I'll probably drop another video when that inevitably happens. Let me know if you agree in the comments. I'm not here to just completely dismiss any alternative perspectives. Or perhaps I may have some of my facts wrong. But until then, I'll see you probably next week when the next thing inevitably happens.